The smoke still rises from the charred remains of Nordhausen on this April morning in 1945. 20,000 souls perished here, deep in underground tunnels, their lives consumed not by battle, but by an insatiable hunger for knowledge turned weaponized. This is where human ingenuity met human cruelty, where the pursuit of reaching the stars became a descent into darkness. Before we continue this journey, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story resonates with you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extraordinary for you. Consider the peculiar treasure that draws armies to these smoking ruins. Not gold gleaming in strongboxes, not ancient artifacts or precious stones. The prize is something far more valuable and infinitely more dangerous: human knowledge itself. As American tanks rumble through the devastation, their crews carry lists that read like academic rosters: Wernher von Braun, Kurt Blohm, Hubertus Strughold. These names represent something unprecedented in the history of warfare: the systematic hunting of minds. In hidden mountain facilities across the collapsing Reich, a desperate race unfolds. German scientists, realizing their world is ending, make frantic calculations about survival. Some feed decades of research into roaring furnaces, watching equations that could reshape physics curl into ash and smoke. Others carefully pack wooden crates with prototypes of jet engines capable of 900 km/h speeds that would have seemed like magic just years before. They understand what their captors do not yet fully grasp, that in their minds lies the foundation of a new kind of power. The Alsos mission moves through this chaos like hunters tracking the most elusive prey. Colonel Boris Pash, a man who understands that wars are won not just by bullets but by bytes of information, leads midnight raids on the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute. Picture these intelligence officers, flashlights cutting through darkness, discovering nuclear research that makes even hardened physicists break into cold sweats. They find documents detailing Germany's experimental nuclear reactor, hidden like a secret in a cave near Hechingen, its heavy water stolen from Norway at tremendous cost in blood and sacrifice. What unfolds here represents something entirely new in human history. For millennia, conquering armies sought territory, treasure, or tribute. But this generation of warriors hunts something more abstract yet infinitely more powerful: the capacity to understand and manipulate the fundamental forces of nature. They recognize that in the equations scribbled on blackboards, in the metal prototypes, gathering dust in underground workshops, lies the future itself. Meanwhile, to the east, Soviet teams operate with characteristic thoroughness. They dismantle entire factories with industrial precision, loading railway car after railway car with equipment, documents, and most crucially, the human beings who understand how to use them. Watch as they work, methodical, systematic, treating each piece of captured technology like an archaeologist handling ancient artifacts. They understand that this knowledge represents more than military advantage. It holds the keys to reshaping civilization itself. The organic networks that had connected German science begin fragmenting like Arctic ice in the spring thaw. For decades, these institutions had operated as living systems, ideas flowing between universities and research centers like nutrients through a vast organism. Now, external forces tear these networks apart, scattering their components across the globe like seeds on a violent wind. Each fragment carries within it the genetic material of innovation, ready to take root in foreign soil and bloom into technologies their creators could never have imagined. But observe the deeper transformation occurring. These scientists, who had bent the brilliance toward creating instruments of death, now face a profound metamorphosis. The same minds that calculated trajectories for weapons to fall on London will soon design trajectories to reach the moon. The researchers who studied the limits of human survival in freezing water will contribute to protecting astronauts in the infinite cold of space. It is as if nature itself is demonstrating its capacity for redemption, showing how knowledge can transform from destroyer to creator. The Americans approach this harvest of minds with characteristic pragmatism. They assign point values like traders evaluating commodities: 10 points for rocket expertise, 8 for jet propulsion knowledge, 12 for nuclear physics experience. Yet behind this cold calculation lies something more profound, the recognition that ideas themselves have become the ultimate strategic resource. In laboratories across America, these captured minds will soon merge German precision with American resources, creating hybrid technologies that neither culture could achieve alone. Consider the remarkable irony unfolding. The Nazi regime, built on ideology of racial superiority and national isolation, has inadvertently created something entirely opposite, a massive transfer of knowledge that will benefit all humanity. The rocket technology, designed to terrorize London, will carry communication satellites that connect the globe. The jet engines built for fighters will power commercial aircraft that shrink distances between cultures. Even the darkest research, conducted through unconscionable human experimentation, will ironically contribute to protecting future explorers of space. The British focus their collection efforts on radar specialists and code breakers, recognizing that the war has been won as much by invisible waves and mathematical algorithms as by tanks and artillery. In their careful selection process, they demonstrate understanding that modern warfare is increasingly a contest between competing technologies, between different ways of seeing and interpreting the world. Individual human dramas play out against this vast redistribution of knowledge. Families face agonizing choices between East and West, between collaboration and conscience, between uncertain freedom and familiar captivity. Some scientists, recognizing the approaching end, make desperate bicycle journeys through war-torn Bavaria, carrying precious documents like refugees fleeing natural disaster. Others negotiate their surrender like business deals, calculating which captors offer the best opportunity to continue their life's work. The scale of this transfer staggers the imagination. 1,600 specialists will eventually reach America through Operation Paperclip. Approximately 2,000 will be absorbed into the Soviet system through Operation Osoaviakhim. Hundreds more will scatter to Britain, France, even distant Argentina. It represents perhaps the largest peaceful migration of expertise in human history, peaceful despite occurring in the aftermath of the most destructive war ever fought. Yet beneath these statistics lies something more profound, a demonstration of knowledge's transcendent nature. The equations that describe rocket propulsion work equally well, whether calculated in German, English, or Russian. The laws of physics recognize no national boundaries, no political ideologies. These captured scientists carry within their minds universal truths that belong not to any single nation but to all humanity. As we witness this unprecedented harvest of minds, we observe something fundamental about human nature itself. Knowledge, once created, develops its own momentum, its own desire to spread and grow. Like seeds scattered by wind, these ideas will take root in unexpected places, cross-pollinate in ways their creators never intended, and bloom into achievements that will transform our species' relationship with the cosmos itself. The smoking ruins of Nordhausen, where so many died in service of perverted dreams, will become the foundation for humanity's greatest adventure, our first steps beyond the bounds of Earth. The same calculations that guided weapons of terror will guide vehicles of wonder. It is a transformation that speaks to something essential about existence itself, the capacity for renewal, for redemption, for knowledge to transcend its origins and serve purposes its creators could never have envisioned. In the months ahead, these scattered minds will begin their slow integration into new societies, new purposes, new dreams. The dark chapter of their past will gradually give way to bright achievements that will illuminate the future. They carry within themselves not just technical knowledge, but something more precious proof that human ingenuity, however misguided, contains within it the seeds of its own redemption. The race to capture minds has begun, but it will become something far greater than any military competition. It will become humanity's first steps toward becoming a spacefaring species, toward understanding our universe, toward fulfilling our deepest dreams of exploration and discovery. From the ashes of the darkest chapter in human history, the brightest achievements of our species are about to emerge. Tomorrow, we will witness how this scattered knowledge begins to take root in new soil, how former enemies become reluctant collaborators in humanity's greatest adventure. The transformation has begun. Kransberg Castle rises from the German countryside like something from a medieval tale, its ancient stones now witnessing the most extraordinary interrogation in human history. Here, in what the Allies have designated the Dustbin Interrogation Centre, yesterday's enemies sit across wooden tables from today's captors, revealing secrets that could reshape tomorrow's world. It is a peculiar purgatory where brilliance is catalogued, past sins weighed, and futures calculated with mathematical precision. Picture this scene. German scientists, some still wearing the remnants of their academic dignity, undergo systematic evaluation like specimens under a microscope. Their knowledge is dissected, categorized, assigned numerical values with the cold efficiency of an accounting ledger. American officers, men trained in warfare, now find themselves appraising the worth of theoretical physics and rocket engineering. 10 points for expertise in rocket propulsion, 8 points for advanced knowledge of jet engines, 12 points for experience with nuclear fission. It is as if they are sorting through the most valuable library in human history, deciding which books deserve preservation and which minds merit salvation. The British approach this harvest with characteristic methodical precision, focusing their attention on radar specialists and the brilliant minds who broke enemy codes. They understand that the war was won not just by superior firepower, but by superior information, the ability to see farther, to decode the enemy's intentions, to turn invisible radio waves into eyes that could peer beyond the horizon. Their selection process reveals a deep understanding that future conflicts will be fought increasingly in the realm of electromagnetic waves and mathematical algorithms. The Soviets, true to their nature, operate with sweeping thoroughness. They simply take everyone they can find. Their philosophy is elegantly brutal in its simplicity. If knowledge has value, then all knowledge has value. They load their human cargo like a vast intellectual mining operation, extracting every fragment of expertise from the collapsed Reichslaboratories and research centers. But observe the individual human dramas unfolding within this vast sorting mechanism. Wernher von Braun, the architect of rocket dreams turned nightmare weapons, negotiates his surrender with the strategic mind that designed those very rockets. He understands that his value lies not just in his own brilliance, but in the organic network of minds he has assembled. With careful calculation, he ensures that his entire team of 118 specialists can remain together, a constellation of genius that will prove far more valuable than the sum of its parts. Picture his brother Magnus, cycling through the war-torn landscape of Bavaria like a messenger carrying sacred texts. His bicycle panniers contain not gold or jewels, but something infinitely more precious: documents containing decades of research, equations that unlock the secrets of reaching beyond Earth's gravitational embrace. Each page represents years of calculation, experimentation, and dreams of touching the stars. The sight of this lone figure, pedaling through the wreckage of civilization while carrying the seeds of humanity's future, captures something profoundly moving about the persistence of knowledge. Walter Dornberger, the military commander who transformed Peenemünde from seaside town to launching pad for humanity's space age, makes his own calculated surrender. This man, who once directed the creation of weapons that rained terror on London, now faces a choice that will determine whether those same technologies might one day carry humans to other worlds. His decision to surrender to American forces represents more than military strategy. It is a bet on which ideology will best nurture the dream of space exploration. Meanwhile, thousands of lesser-known scientists face agonizing personal reckonings. Imagine their sleepless nights, weighing impossible choices between East and West, between collaboration and conscience, between the security of family and the uncertainty of freedom. Each decision represents not just a personal choice, but a fragment of human knowledge, choosing its future home. Some will find themselves on trains heading toward the mysterious closed cities of the Soviet Union. Others will board ships bound for American shores. Still, others will scatter to Britain, France, even distant Argentina, carrying within their minds the technical DNA that will soon splice itself into entirely new forms of achievement. The distribution unfolds with mathematical precision that would have impressed the scientists themselves. 1,600 specialists flow toward America through the carefully orchestrated channels of Operation Paperclip. Approximately 2,000 disappear into the vast Soviet system through Operation Osoaviakim. Hundreds more scatter like seeds on the wind to other nations hungry for technological advancement. It represents perhaps the largest peaceful redistribution of human expertise in history, peaceful despite occurring in the shadow of the most destructive war ever fought. Yet, beneath these grand statistics, observe the profound transformation beginning to occur within the scientists themselves. Men who had bent their brilliance toward creating instruments of death now face the possibility of redemption through creation rather than destruction. The same mathematical elegance that calculated the trajectory of a V-2 rocket falling on London could equally well calculate the path of a satellite carrying humanity's first tentative signals to the stars. Consider the remarkable irony embedded in this process. The Nazi regime, built on ideologies of racial superiority and national isolation, has inadvertently created the largest international transfer of scientific knowledge in human history. Their closed system of research, meant to give Germany overwhelming technological superiority, instead becomes the foundation for global advancement. It is as if nature itself is demonstrating that knowledge, once created, develops its own momentum toward universal distribution. The interrogation process reveals layer upon layer of hidden research. Scientists describe experiments in high-altitude physiology that, despite their dark origins in human experimentation, will ironically contribute to protecting future astronauts. Others detail work on synthetic fuels that will advance global petrochemistry. Still others reveal research into materials science that will enable the construction of vehicles capable of withstanding the incredible stresses of spaceflight. Watch as former enemies begin the delicate process of transformation from adversaries to reluctant collaborators. American officers, initially suspicious of their captives, gradually recognize the profound value of the knowledge being offered. German scientists, initially fearful for their lives and freedom, slowly realize that their captors see them not as war criminals, but as keys to technological supremacy. It is a dance of mutual recognition, each side slowly acknowledging their need for the other. The British interviews reveal particular fascination with the scientists who developed Germany's advanced radar systems. These men had created the electronic eyes that could see through darkness and a storm, technologies that proved crucial in the desperate aerial battles over Britain. Now, in a twist that speaks to the transformative power of knowledge, these same electronic eyes will soon watch the heavens for entirely peaceful purposes, tracking weather patterns and guiding commercial aircraft safely to their destinations. Soviet interrogation teams work with characteristic systematic thoroughness, recognizing that in the modern world, scientific knowledge represents the ultimate strategic resource. Their approach reflects a profound understanding that future power will flow not from territorial conquest, but from technological superiority. The scientists they gather will contribute to achievements that will astonish the world, from the first artificial satellite to the first human spaceflight. Individual stories of transformation begin to emerge from the chaos. Scientists who once calculated how to maximize destruction now find themselves pondering how to minimize the risks of space travel. Aerodynamics experts who designed fighters to kill now envision passenger aircraft that will shrink the world through peaceful commerce. The same minds that created terror weapons begin sketching designs for communication satellites that will connect all humanity in an invisible web of information. The sorting process reveals something fundamental about the nature of scientific knowledge itself. These men carry within their minds universal truths that recognize no national boundaries, no political ideologies. The laws of physics work equally well, whether calculated in German laboratories or American research centers. The mathematical relationships that govern rocket propulsion remain constant, whether used to deliver weapons of war or instruments of exploration. As the great sorting concludes, a new chapter in human history prepares to begin. The scattered fragments of German scientific expertise, like seeds carried by wind to foreign soil, will soon take root and begin growing into achievements that will transform our species' relationship with the cosmos. The dark origins of their knowledge will gradually be overshadowed by the bright achievements it will enable. The transformation has begun in earnest. Former weapons designers prepare to become space pioneers. Former enemies prepare to become reluctant partners in humanity's greatest adventure. The minds that once served destruction now prepare to serve discovery. In the ruins of one civilization's collapse, the foundations of another's greatest achievements are taking shape. Fort Bliss, Texas, 1946. In the vast expanse of the American Southwest, where desert winds carry the scent of sage and distant mountains shimmer in the heat, an extraordinary experiment in human transformation unfolds. 118 German rocket scientists, men who once served the darkest regime in human history, now live in converted hospital barracks under the endless Texas sky. They are technically prisoners of war, yet they hold within their minds the keys to America's future among the stars. Picture this remarkable scene. Men who once calculated the trajectories of terror now eat standard army rations from metal trays, their brilliant minds adapting to a new rhythm of life. They learn English not from academic textbooks but from American comic books, their children's stories becoming the unlikely bridge between cultures. Watch as these former weapons designers sketch spacecraft concepts on dinner napkins, their imaginations no longer constrained by the limitations of warfare, but liberated to pursue humanity's oldest dream, reaching beyond Earth's gravitational embrace. Their children attend American schools where classmates remain blissfully unaware that their new friends' fathers designed the rockets that once rained terror on London. It is a profound demonstration of childhood's capacity for innocence, for accepting the present without dwelling on the weight of history. These young minds, growing up between cultures, will become living bridges between their parents' dark past and America's bright technological future. The transformation process operates on multiple levels simultaneously, like a complex chemical reaction with many stages. First comes the bureaucratic sanitization, as American officials carefully craft new histories for their valuable acquisitions. Nazi Party affiliations disappear from official records. SS memberships fade into bureaucratic amnesia. War crimes become administrative oversights. It is a systematic cleansing of the past, designed to make the future politically palatable, yet observe the deeper metamorphosis occurring within the scientists themselves. Men who had bent their genius toward destruction now find their minds naturally gravitating toward creation. The same mathematical elegance that guided weapons to their targets begins calculating trajectories for peaceful exploration. The precision that once served death now serves discovery. It is as if knowledge itself possesses an inherent tendency toward beneficial transformation, like a river that eventually finds its way to the sea, regardless of the obstacles in its path. Across the Iron Curtain, in the vast expanse of the Soviet Union, German scientists experience a parallel but darker transformation. On October 22, 1946, Soviet forces execute Operation Osoaviakhim with the ruthless efficiency that characterizes their approach to everything. Picture this. At precisely 2 o'clock in the morning, NKVD agents simultaneously knock on doors across the Soviet occupation zone. The coordination is mathematically perfect, timed to prevent communication between targets, designed to gather the maximum number of minds before word can spread. Within hours, entire German research teams board trains heading eastward into the Soviet interior, their destination a series of closed cities that exist nowhere on public maps. These are not journeys but disappearances, as complete as if the scientists had been absorbed into the vast Russian landscape itself. Families pack hastily, uncertain whether they are heading toward opportunity or imprisonment, toward collaboration or captivity. Gorodomlya Island in Lake Seliger becomes their golden cage, a place of comfortable imprisonment where German expertise feeds the Soviet rocket program like tributaries flowing into a mighty river. The island itself seems designed by nature for secrecy, surrounded by water, isolated from the outside world, beautiful in its isolation, yet absolute in its containment. Here, German scientists work on Soviet rockets while living in a strange hybrid existence, neither fully free nor completely imprisoned. The integration mechanisms differ dramatically between East and West, revealing fundamental differences in how each system values human dignity. Americans offer eventual citizenship and suburban homes, dangling the promise of full membership in society. Soviets provide comfortable captivity and constant surveillance, ensuring productive work, while never forgetting that their assets remain fundamentally foreign. It is the difference between adoption and acquisition, between welcoming new family members and maintaining useful prisoners. Yet both systems recognize the same fundamental truth. In the modern world, scientific knowledge represents the ultimate strategic resource. The nation that can most effectively harness and integrate captured expertise will dominate the technologies that define the future. Both superpowers understand that they are not just competing for territory or influence, but for the very foundations of technological civilization itself. Within the Texas barracks, remarkable scenes of cultural fusion unfold daily. German engineers collaborate with American technicians, their different approaches to problem-solving, creating hybrid methodologies neither culture could achieve alone. German theoretical precision merges with American practical innovation. European systematic thinking combines with American entrepreneurial spirit. It is like watching two different musical traditions blend into an entirely new symphony. The children of these scientists become unwitting ambassadors of transformation. In American playgrounds, they learn baseball and basketball while retaining memories of European traditions. They become bilingual bridges between worlds, their very existence proof that human beings can transcend the accidents of their birth. Their parents, watching their children adapt with the remarkable flexibility of youth, see living evidence that transformation is not only possible, but inevitable. Meanwhile, in the Soviet Union, German families adapt to a different kind of integration. Their children learn Russian in schools, where the curriculum emphasizes collective achievement over individual recognition. They experience the peculiar isolation of the closed cities, where entire communities exist in a state of productive secrecy. Yet even here, the fundamental human capacity for adaptation asserts itself. Gardens bloom in Siberian settlements. Christmas traditions survive in orthodox surroundings. Knowledge continues to flow and grow despite political constraints. The technical integration proceeds with remarkable speed in both systems. German rocket expertise begins merging with American manufacturing capabilities, creating production processes neither nation could achieve independently. In the Soviet Union, German systematic approaches combine with Russian theoretical physics, producing hybrid technologies that advance human understanding of spaceflight. It is as if knowledge itself seeks the most fertile ground for growth, adapting quickly to new environments while retaining its essential character. Observe the profound irony embedded in this process. The Nazi regime's obsession with technological superiority has inadvertently created the foundation for unprecedented international cooperation in space exploration. Their closed system of research, designed to maintain German dominance, instead becomes the seed of global advancement. Knowledge, once created, develops its own momentum toward universal distribution, like light that cannot be contained once it begins to shine. Individual stories of transformation emerge from the broader historical narrative. Scientists who once feared Allied bombing raids now work alongside former enemies with growing mutual respect. Men who designed weapons to terrorize London find themselves calculating trajectories for satellites that will benefit all humanity. The psychological journey from weapons designer to space pioneer requires not just professional retraining, but fundamental personal transformation. The families of these scientists undergo their own remarkable metamorphosis. Wives who once lived in fear of Allied reprisals now navigate American grocery stores and Soviet state shops, learning new languages and customs while maintaining connections to their European heritage. Children who grew up under Nazi ideology now absorb democratic values or socialist principles, their young minds proving remarkably adaptable to new political and social environments. As 1946 progresses into 1947, the transformation accelerates. Language barriers gradually dissolve as German scientists become fluent in English and Russian. Cultural differences soften, as shared professional challenges create bonds stronger than national origins. The universal language of mathematics and physics proves more powerful than the political ideologies that once divided these men. The seeds of future achievement are already visible in the early collaborative projects. American-German teams begin developing improved versions of the V-2 rocket, their combined expertise producing technologies superior to what either culture could create alone. Soviet-German partnerships explore advanced propulsion concepts that will eventually enable the first artificial satellites. The cross-pollination of ideas accelerates with each passing month. Yet, beneath the technical achievements, something more profound occurs. These former enemies discover their shared humanity through their common pursuit of knowledge. The German scientist teaching American engineers about combustion chamber design finds himself invited to suburban barbecues. The Soviet researcher, learning from German expertise, shares stories of his own children's schools. Knowledge becomes the universal solvent that dissolves the barriers of nationality and ideology. The transformation is not without its challenges and contradictions. Some German scientists struggle with guilt over their wartime activities, finding in space exploration a form of technological redemption. Others maintain that they were always scientists first, political actors second, their work divorced from the ideological context that enabled it. The psychological complexity of this transformation will influence space exploration for decades to come. As the chapter concludes, the foundations are laid for achievements that will astonish the world. The scattered seeds of German scientific expertise, planted in American and Soviet soil, begin to sprout. Former weapons designers prepare to become the architects of humanity's space age. The transformation from destruction to discovery accelerates, carrying within it the promise of achievements beyond the imagination of those who began this remarkable journey. By 1950, the transplanted knowledge begins yielding extraordinary fruit, like an orchard finally reaching maturity after years of careful cultivation. In Huntsville, Alabama, a place transformed from sleepy cotton fields into what will become known as Rocket City, von Braun's team develops the Redstone rocket, America's first nuclear-armed ballistic missile. The same minds that once created instruments of terror now design vehicles capable of carrying communication, satellites, and weather instruments into the infinite cathedral of space. Picture this remarkable evolution. From the smoking ruins of Peenemünde to the gleaming test stands of Alabama, a direct lineage connects past destruction to future discovery. The technical genealogy traces with mathematical precision from the V-2 rocket through Redstone to Jupiter-C, each iteration carrying within it German engineering precision, merged with American industrial might and democratic values. It is like watching a river change course while maintaining its essential character, finding new channels that lead toward entirely different destinations. The transformation of Huntsville itself tells a remarkable story of rebirth and renewal. Where cotton once grew in endless rows under the Alabama sun, now rocket engines roar to life on test stands, their flames reaching skyward like technological prayers. The same soil that once supported agriculture now supports humanity's first tentative steps beyond Earth's gravitational embrace. Local residents, many descendants of families who had farmed this land for generations, find themselves working alongside German rocket scientists, their lives forever changed by the proximity to such extraordinary ambition. Behind the Iron Curtain, parallel achievements unfold with characteristic Soviet grandeur and secrecy. German scientists contribute their expertise to spectacular Soviet accomplishments that will soon astonish the world. Helmut Gröttrup, once von Braun's deputy at Peenemünde, now helps develop the Ronne rocket, essentially a copied and improved version of the V-2. But observe how knowledge evolves when transplanted. What begins as mere copying soon becomes innovation, as German expertise merges with Soviet engineering philosophy to create technologies neither culture could achieve alone. The cross-pollination creates hybrid technologies that represent something entirely new in human achievement. German theoretical physics, with its emphasis on mathematical elegance and systematic analysis, merges with American engineering pragmatism that prioritizes practical solutions and rapid implementation. This fusion produces approaches to rocket design that combine the best of both traditions: European sophistication married to American efficiency. In the Soviet system, a different but equally productive fusion occurs. Soviet systematic approaches to research and development, with their emphasis on comprehensive state planning and resource allocation, combine with German innovation and attention to detail. The result is a hybrid methodology that can tackle extraordinarily ambitious projects with both technical brilliance and bureaucratic efficiency. By 1957, this lineage culminates in one of humanity's most profound achievements, the launch of Sputnik. That basketball-sized sphere whose simple beeping signal announces Soviet supremacy, while owing profound debts to German expertise. Listen to that signal for a moment. Beep, beep, beep. Each tone represents not just a technical achievement, but a bridge between past destruction and future discovery, between weapons that once fell from the sky and vehicles that now soar beyond it. The satellite's success demonstrates something fundamental about knowledge itself, its inherent tendency toward beneficial transformation. The same calculations that once guided weapons to their targets now guide peaceful instruments into stable orbits around Earth. The precision that once served death now serves discovery. It is as if the universe itself favors creation over destruction, gradually transforming even the darkest knowledge toward enlightening purposes. Former enemies now advance human knowledge together, their collaboration creating achievements neither could accomplish alone. In American laboratories, German precision merges with democratic openness, producing research environments where ideas flow freely between minds, once separated by ideology and warfare. In Soviet facilities, German innovation combines with socialist systematic approaches, creating comprehensive programs that tackle space exploration with unprecedented scope and ambition. The personal transformations mirror the technical achievements. Men who once designed weapons to kill now calculate trajectories for satellites that will save lives through weather prediction and communication. Scientists who once worked in secrecy now find their achievements celebrated on front pages worldwide. The psychological journey from weapons designer to space pioneer represents one of the most profound personal transformations in human history. Watch as the seeds planted in 1945 begin producing an entire forest of innovation. German contributions extend far beyond rocketry into multiple fields that will reshape human civilization. Their work on jet engines enables commercial aviation to shrink the world, making international travel accessible to ordinary citizens rather than just the wealthy elite. What once powered fighters designed to kill now carries families on vacation, business travelers to distant meetings, and immigrants toward new lives in foreign lands. Their research into synthetic fuels, originally designed to keep German war machines running despite oil shortages, now advances global petrochemistry in ways that benefit all humanity. The same chemical processes that once supported aggression now contribute to plastics, pharmaceuticals, and countless other products that improve human life. Knowledge, it seems, possesses an inherent tendency toward multiplication and beneficial application. Research into high-altitude physiology, gained through unconscionable human experiments, ironically helps protect future astronauts and high-altitude pilots. The dark origins of this knowledge create profound moral complexities. Yet the information itself proves valuable for protecting human life in extreme environments. It represents one of the most troubling examples of how knowledge can serve beneficial purposes regardless of how it was originally obtained. By 1970, over 600 German scientists have become American citizens, their children fully American, their grandchildren knowing only fragments of the family story. This represents one of the most successful examples of peaceful integration in human history, former enemies becoming not just colleagues but family members, neighbors, and friends. Their technical contributions become inseparable from America's greatest achievements in space exploration. In the Soviet Union, most German scientists have either returned home or integrated completely into Soviet society, their contributions absorbed into the secretive Soviet system like tributaries flowing into a vast river, while their individual stories remain largely hidden, behind official secrecy. Their collective impact resonates through Soviet achievements in space that will inspire the entire world. The technological acceleration follows exponential curves that would have seemed impossible just decades earlier. By 1960, humans have created artificial satellites, photographed the far side of the moon, and begun planning missions to other planets. The knowledge scattered in 1945 has grown into comprehensive understanding of spaceflight that opens unlimited possibilities for human exploration. Consider the profound transformation this represents. In 15 short years, humanity has progressed from destroying cities with rockets to using those same technologies for peaceful exploration of space. The arc of this transformation speaks to something fundamental about human nature, our capacity for redemption, for learning from our darkest mistakes, for transforming destructive knowledge into beneficial achievement. The cultural impact extends far beyond technical accomplishments. Children growing up in 1960 take for granted that humans can reach space, that satellites orbit overhead carrying television signals and weather information, that the moon itself has become a potential destination rather than just a distant object of wonder. The integration of German scientific expertise has helped create a generation that sees space exploration as natural and inevitable rather than impossible fantasy. The seeds planted in 1945 have grown into forests of innovation that continue expanding with each passing year. Former weapons designers have become the architects of humanity's space age. Former enemies have become partners in discovery. Former sources of destruction have become foundations for exploration. The transformation demonstrates that knowledge, once created, develops its own momentum toward beneficial application, like rivers that eventually find their way to the sea regardless of the obstacles they encounter. The next phase of this remarkable journey will witness even greater achievements, as the foundation laid by these transformed scientists enables humanity to reach beyond Earth itself, to touch other worlds, to fulfill dreams that seemed impossible just decades earlier. The seeds have taken root and begun to flourish. The harvest promises to exceed even the wildest expectations of those who planted them. July 16, 1969. As the mighty Saturn V lifts off from Kennedy Space Center, carrying Apollo 11 toward humanity's greatest adventure, Wernher von Braun watches from the viewing stands with tears streaming down his face. This moment represents the culmination of his life's work, a rocket that will carry humans to the moon, traces its ancestry directly back to weapons that once rained death on London. Yet observe the profound transformation. The same mathematical principles that guided instruments of terror now guide vehicles of promise, wonder toward the most peaceful conquest in human history. Picture the extraordinary lineage that connects this moment to the darkest chapter of the 20th century. The rocket engines roaring beneath Apollo 11 burn with the accumulated knowledge of decades from the first tentative experiments at Peenemünde through the desperate final years of the war, through the careful integration of German expertise into American space programs, to this ultimate achievement. It is as if human knowledge itself has been on a journey of redemption, transforming destruction into discovery through the patient work of minds dedicated to beneficial purposes. The contributions extend far beyond the rocket that carries Armstrong, Aldrin, and Collins toward their rendezvous with lunar destiny. Kurt Debus, who once launched V-2 rockets from the Baltic coast of Peenemünde, now directs the entire Kennedy Space Center, overseeing the most complex engineering operation in human history. His experience with rocket launches, gained through years of weapons testing, now ensures that peaceful explorers reach their destination safely. Krafft Ehricke, who once calculated trajectories for weapons designed to terrorize civilians, now designs space stations that could preserve human civilization should disaster befall our home planet. His visionary concepts for permanent orbital habitats represent one of the most profound transformations possible, from calculating death to designing eternal life among the stars. It is as if the universe itself rewards those who turn their brilliance from destruction toward preservation. Watch as the technological acceleration follows curves that would have seemed impossible just decades earlier. The German scientists who arrived in America as prisoners of war have become the architects of achievements that inspire the entire world. Their children, now fully American, work alongside them in the great enterprise of space exploration. Their grandchildren attend universities where they study the very technologies their grandfathers helped create, often unaware of the complex historical journey that enabled their education. The psychological transformation mirrors the technical achievements. Men who once lived with the knowledge that their work contributed to civilian deaths now experience the profound satisfaction of enabling humanity's greatest peaceful achievement. The moon landing represents not just a technical triumph but a moral victory, proof that human genius, however misguided in its origins, can ultimately serve the highest aspirations of our species. Consider the remarkable irony embedded in this achievement. The Apollo program succeeds partly because it employs the systematic approaches developed for weapons production during World War II. The same attention to detail that ensured V-2 rockets could reach their targets now ensures that Apollo spacecraft can navigate the 250,000 miles to the moon and return safely. The precision that once served destruction now serves discovery with mathematical perfection. Yet the contributions of the former German scientists extend far beyond rocketry into every aspect of space exploration. Their work on guidance systems, originally developed to ensure weapons hit their targets, now enables spacecraft to navigate with extraordinary precision across the vast emptiness of space. Their research into materials science, once focused on creating more effective weapons, now produces heat shields that protect astronauts during their fiery return to Earth's atmosphere. The cultural impact of these achievements resonates far beyond technical accomplishment. Children watching the moon landing on television see proof that human beings can achieve the impossible through cooperation, dedication, and the peaceful application of knowledge. The former weapons designers have become heroes to a generation that knows them only as space pioneers, their dark past transformed into brilliant achievement. In the Soviet Union, parallel achievements unfold with characteristic ambition and secrecy. Soviet space triumphs from Sputnik through Gagarin's orbital flight to the first spacewalk all carry within them contributions from German scientific expertise absorbed after the war. The competition between superpowers, ironically, accelerates human progress toward becoming a spacefaring species, transforming Cold War rivalry into a race for peaceful exploration of the cosmos. The technological genealogy becomes increasingly complex and international. German rocket expertise merges with American engineering and Soviet systematic approaches to create hybrid technologies that represent the best of all traditions. Knowledge, once scattered by the chaos of war, has reconstituted itself into comprehensive understanding that serves all humanity's dreams of exploration. By 1970, the transformation is essentially complete. Over 600 German scientists have become American citizens, their technical contributions inseparable from America's identity as a spacefaring nation. Their children speak English without accents, attend American universities, and marry into American families. Their grandchildren know only fragments of the family story, raised on stories of space exploration rather than weapons development. The personal redemption stories provide profound examples of human transformation. Scientists who once feared Allied bombers now work in offices where photographs of successful space missions cover the walls. Men who once designed weapons in underground bunkers now design spacecraft in gleaming laboratories filled with natural light. The physical environment of their work mirrors the moral transformation of their purposes. Arthur Rudolph, who managed production of V-2 rockets using slave labor at Nordhausen, now manages production of Saturn V rockets that carry free astronauts to the moon. The moral complexity of this transformation will later create profound challenges, but in 1970 it represents the apparent triumph of redemption through achievement. The same organizational skills that once served dark purposes now serve humanity's brightest dreams. Hubertus Strughold, whose research into high-altitude physiology included unconscionable human experiments, now becomes known as the father of space medicine, his work protecting astronauts from the hostile environment of space. The knowledge gained through evil means now serves to preserve human life in the ultimate frontier. It represents one of the most troubling yet undeniable examples of how information can transcend its origins. The moon landing itself becomes a symbol of humanity's capacity for transformation and achievement. When Neil Armstrong steps onto the lunar surface, his words, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind," acknowledge not just the technical achievement but the profound human journey that made it possible. The footprints in lunar dust represent the culmination of the most remarkable transformation in scientific history. The global reaction to the moon landing demonstrates space exploration's unique capacity to unite humanity across political and cultural divisions. Even citizens of nations competing with America celebrate the achievement as a human triumph rather than merely an American victory. The former German scientists, watching global celebrations of their work, experience validation that their transformation from weapons designers to space pioneers serves all humanity. As the 1970s begin, the foundation laid by the scattered German scientists enables ever more ambitious achievements. Plans for space stations, lunar bases, and missions to Mars all build upon the knowledge integrated into American and Soviet space programs during the previous 25 years. The seeds planted in 1945 have grown into a stepped Ispartas Dutho Wee forest of achievement that continues expanding toward unlimited possibilities. The transformation from weapons to wonders represents more than technical achievement. It demonstrates something fundamental about human nature and the character of knowledge itself. Even the darkest expertise, when turned toward beneficial purposes, can serve humanity's highest aspirations. The journey from Peenemünde to the Sea of Tranquility proves that redemption is possible, that knowledge transcends its origins, that human beings can learn from their worst mistakes and achieve their greatest dreams. The rocket that carries humans to the moon roars with the accumulated wisdom of centuries, but its immediate ancestry traces to the scattered scientists who chose transformation over despair, cooperation over isolation, discovery over destruction. Their journey from enemies to partners, from weapons designers to space pioneers, from sources of terror to architects of wonder, represents one of the most profound transformations in human history. The next phase of this journey will bring new challenges and revelations as the world begins to confront the moral complexities embedded in these remarkable achievements. But for now, in this moment of triumph, humanity stands on another world for the first time, fulfilling dreams that seemed impossible just decades earlier, proving that knowledge, however dark its origins, can ultimately serve the light. The reckoning arrives in waves, like a tide that has been gathering strength for decades before finally reaching the shore. 1984. Arthur Rudolph, the engineering genius who managed Saturn V production and helped put humans on the moon, faces deportation proceedings when his role in using slave labor at Nordhausen finally surfaces in official investigations. The Office of Special Investigations, formed to hunt hidden Nazi war criminals, discovers what many suspected but few dared to investigate: that America's moon landing. Heroes had worked alongside SS officers, that the architects of humanity's greatest peaceful achievement carried within their past the darkest secrets of the 20th century. Picture the profound moral complexity of this moment. The same man who organized the systematic use of slave labor to build V-2 rockets also organized the production systems that enabled Apollo to reach the moon. His expertise in managing complex technical projects proved equally effective, whether applied to weapons that killed thousands or spacecraft that inspired millions. Knowledge, it seems, possesses no inherent moral character. Its ethical value depends entirely on the purposes to which human beings choose to apply it. Hubertus Strughold, honored throughout the space program as the father of space medicine, finds his reputation shattered when documents reveal his participation in freezing experiments conducted on prisoners at Dachau. The research that helped protect astronauts from the hostile. The environment of space was originally obtained through unconscionable human experimentation. This revelation forces the most uncomfortable question possible. Can magnificent achievements erase monstrous acts, or do they remain forever tainted by their origins? Each revelation forces painful recalculations throughout the scientific community and the general public. Newspapers that once celebrated space heroes now publish investigations into their wartime activities. Universities that granted honorary degrees begin quietly removing photographs from their walls. The children and grandchildren of German scientists, many now prominent Americans in their own right, discover family secrets that cast shadows over their proudest achievements. The next generation grapples with inherited shadows they never chose to carry. Some children of German scientists discover their father's buried past through declassified documents released decades after the war. Others always knew fragments of the truth, but lived in careful silence, understanding that their family's prosperity depended on forgetting rather than remembering. Still others find themselves caught between loyalty to beloved fathers and horror at newly revealed truths about their wartime activities. Michael Neufeld, a historian at the National Air and Space Museum, begins the meticulous work of documenting how von Braun systematically minimized his Nazi involvement while maximizing his role as a space visionary. His research reveals the careful construction of a public image designed to emphasize technical achievement while obscuring political collaboration. The hero narrative, so carefully crafted during the space race, begins crumbling under the weight of historical evidence. Survivors of slave labor at Nordhausen begin speaking at the same conferences where rocket scientists are honored, creating scenes of extraordinary moral complexity. Elderly men who barely survived the underground rocket factories sit in the same auditoriums as the scientists who designed those factories, their testimonies creating profound discomfort among audiences who came expecting celebration rather than confrontation. The juxtaposition forces everyone present to confront questions they would prefer to avoid. The moral equations grow more complex with time rather than simpler. Without these compromised scientists, would humanity have reached the moon by 1969? Would communication satellites now connect the globe? Would weather satellites now save thousands of lives annually through storm prediction? The utilitarian calculus proves impossibly complex, weighing present benefits against past horrors, measuring human achievement against human suffering, calculating whether ends can ever justify means. Consider the perspective of the astronauts themselves, men who risked their lives aboard rockets designed by former weapons builders. Many express profound gratitude for the technical excellence that kept them alive during their missions, even while struggling with knowledge about how that expertise was originally obtained. They find themselves caught between admiration for scientific brilliance and revulsion at moral compromise, between celebration of achievement and acknowledgement of complicity. The integration process that seemed so clean and successful in 1945 reveals its true messiness decades later. Documents declassified under the Freedom of Information Act expose the extent to which American officials knew about the German scientists' wartime activities, yet chose to ignore them in pursuit of technological advantage. The moral compromises made in the name of national security now seem less defensible in the clearer light of historical perspective. Families of Holocaust survivors organize protests outside space museums, demanding that exhibits acknowledge the role of slave labor in rocket development. Their signs read "Built on Bones" and "Blood Moon," creating stark contrasts with the celebratory narratives that have dominated space history for decades. Museum directors struggle to balance historical accuracy with public inspiration, finding no easy way to honor achievement while acknowledging horror. The German scientists themselves, now elderly men facing the final reckonings of their lives, respond with varying degrees of honesty and denial. Some, like von Braun before his death in 1977, maintain that they were always scientists first, political actors second, claiming their work transcended the ideological context that enabled it. Others acknowledge complicity while emphasizing their later contributions to peaceful exploration. Still others retreat into silence, understanding that any explanation risks further condemnation. The psychological burden on their children proves particularly heavy. Many spent their entire lives believing their fathers were American heroes, only to discover in middle age that family prosperity was built on carefully concealed participation in war crimes. Some choose continued denial, insisting that their father's space achievements outweigh any wartime activities. Others undergo profound personal crises, forced to reconstruct their understanding of their own identities and family histories. Universities begin reviewing the honorary degrees awarded to German scientists, with some institutions quietly removing recipients from their rolls, while others engage in public debates about whether academic recognition should be retroactively withdrawn. The discussions reveal deep disagreements about the relationship between personal conduct and professional achievement, between individual moral responsibility and collective benefit. The space program itself undergoes institutional soul-searching, as administrators grapple with how to acknowledge the dark origins of some of their greatest achievements. NASA begins funding research into the use of slave labor in rocket development, yet struggles with how to present these findings without undermining public support for space exploration. The tension between historical honesty and institutional protection creates ongoing conflicts within the agency. International perspectives add additional complexity to these reckonings. European survivors' organizations demand acknowledgement and reparations, while American officials worry about damaging relationships with allies and partners. The moral questions that seemed so clear-cut during the immediate post-war period now appear far more complicated when viewed from the perspective of multiple generations and diverse cultural viewpoints. Legal proceedings drag on for years, with aged scientists facing deportation to countries that no longer exist or courts that no longer function. The pursuit of justice becomes entangled with practical impossibilities, as prosecutors struggle to apply contemporary legal standards to wartime activities conducted under different laws in different nations. The passage of time has made justice more complex rather than simpler. Media coverage varies dramatically, from sensationalized exposés that paint all German scientists as war criminals to defensive articles that emphasize their contributions to peaceful exploration. The public struggles to process information that challenges heroic narratives they have believed for decades, resulting in polarized reactions that often reflect political ideologies rather than historical evidence. The revelations affect different communities in different ways. Jewish communities feel vindicated that hidden truths have finally emerged, while German-American communities worry about renewed prejudice against their heritage. Space enthusiasts struggle with cognitive dissonance between admiration for achievement and horror at methods. Veterans of World War II express complex emotions about former enemies who became American heroes. As the 1980s progress, the full complexity of the post-war scientific diaspora becomes clear. The clean narratives of redemption through achievement give way to more nuanced understanding of how institutions, individuals, and nations balance moral principles against practical benefits. The questions raised during this period will continue haunting discussions of science, ethics, and national security for generations to come. The reckoning demonstrates that time does not heal all wounds or resolve all moral complexities. Instead, it often reveals the full extent of compromises made in pursuit of practical benefits, forcing later generations to grapple with ethical dilemmas their predecessors chose to ignore. The past, it seems, never truly becomes past. It continues shaping the present through the consequences of choices made decades earlier. The patterns established in 1945 reverberate through modern scientific competition, like sound waves that have traveled across decades. Their frequency and amplitude changed by time, yet their essential character preserved. When the Soviet Union collapses in 1991, American agencies execute Operation Sapphire with surgical precision, recruiting former Soviet weapons scientists to prevent their expertise from reaching hostile nations or terrorist organizations. The parallels to the post-war harvest of German minds are unmistakable once again. The primary strategic resource is human knowledge, and once again, nations compete to capture and integrate that knowledge into their own systems. Picture the familiar scenes unfolding with updated technology but unchanged human dynamics. Russian nuclear physicists boarding flights to Los Alamos, their families clutching documents in languages their new neighbors cannot read. Ukrainian rocket engineers adapting to life in Huntsville, where the descendants of German scientists now welcome new waves of foreign expertise. The same moral complexities that surrounded Operation Paperclip reappear in contemporary debates about recruiting scientists whose previous work served authoritarian regimes. China's Thousand Talents program represents perhaps the most systematic modern example of the principles established after World War II. With methodical precision, reminiscent of both American and Soviet recruitment efforts, Chinese agencies systematically recruit Western scientists, offering prestigious positions, generous funding, and state-of-the-art facilities. The program operates on the understanding that scientific knowledge represents the ultimate strategic resource, that nations rise or fall based on their ability to attract, develop, and retain intellectual capital. Yet observe how the ethical frameworks developed through painful post-war experience now guide international law and policy. The Wassenaar Arrangement governs transfer of dual-use technologies, attempting to prevent beneficial scientific knowledge from being diverted to harmful purposes. Treaties prevent weaponization of space, ensuring that the cosmos remains dedicated to peaceful exploration rather than military competition. These legal structures represent humanity's gradual learning from the moral complexities revealed in the aftermath of the German scientific diaspora. The European Space Agency emerges as a powerful symbol of transformation. Former enemies now collaborate as equal partners in humanity's continuing exploration of space. French scientists work alongside German engineers, Italian physicists collaborate with British technicians, and Polish researchers contribute to missions that benefit all humanity. The organization represents the fulfillment of the most optimistic visions held by those who first scattered German scientific expertise across the globe. Today's scientific diaspora follows paths carved by the post-war redistribution of knowledge. Brain drain patterns, established when German scientists fled to America and the Soviet Union, continue. Researchers flow toward institutions that offer the best resources, the greatest freedom, and the most opportunities for meaningful work. Silicon Valley attracts computer scientists from every continent. CERN draws physicists from around the world. The International Space Station hosts astronauts and experiments from dozens of nations, creating the kind of international scientific cooperation that seemed impossible during the dark days of World War II. The closed Soviet cities that once housed German scientists have become models for modern research clusters from Silicon Valley to Shenzhen. These concentrated communities of expertise demonstrate the continued validity of the principle that scientific knowledge flourishes when brilliant minds work in proximity to one another, sharing ideas and challenging assumptions through daily interaction. The geographic clustering of expertise, first observed in places like Huntsville and Gorodomlya Island, now appears in technology centers worldwide. Consider the profound transformation in how we understand the relationship between scientific knowledge and moral responsibility. The painful revelations about German scientists' wartime activities have led to comprehensive ethical frameworks governing research involving human subjects. Institutional review boards now evaluate every experiment for moral implications. International codes of conduct govern scientific cooperation across borders. The Nuremberg Code, developed in response to Nazi medical experiments, continues shaping how researchers worldwide approach their work. Modern artificial intelligence development faces many of the same ethical dilemmas that surrounded rocket development after World War II. Scientists working on autonomous weapons systems grapple with questions about whether their research will serve beneficial or harmful purposes. Researchers developing surveillance technologies struggle with how their work might be used by authoritarian regimes. The moral complexities that seemed unique to the post-war period now appear as recurring themes in the relationship between knowledge and power. The children and grandchildren of the scattered German scientists have become living bridges between past and present, their careers often reflecting the ongoing influence of their family's remarkable journey. Some have become historians, dedicating their lives to understanding and documenting the complex legacy they inherited. Others work in space exploration, continuing the peaceful application of technical knowledge their ancestors helped establish. Still others pursue entirely different careers, their family's scientific heritage providing background influence rather than primary motivation. Contemporary space exploration bears the permanent imprint of the post-war scientific diaspora. Every rocket launch employs principles first developed by the scattered German scientists. Every satellite orbit reflects mathematical relationships it helped establish. Every mission to Mars or beyond builds upon the foundation they created through their transformation, from weapons designers to space pioneers. Their influence has become so thoroughly integrated into human space exploration that it is impossible to separate their contributions from the general advance of knowledge. The moral questions they raised continue challenging new generations of scientists and policymakers. How do we balance technological progress with ethical responsibility? Can brilliant achievements absolve dark origins? Should nations recruit foreign scientists whose previous work served hostile regimes? These dilemmas appear regularly in contemporary discussions about scientific cooperation, technology transfer, and international competition for intellectual talent. Universities worldwide now offer courses examining the ethical implications of scientific research, using the post-war German scientists as case studies in the complex relationship between knowledge and morality. Students debate whether von Braun should be remembered primarily as a Nazi collaborator or as the architect of humanity's space program. These discussions prepare new generations of scientists to think carefully about the implications of their own work. The democratization of space exploration represents perhaps the most profound vindication of the optimistic vision that guided post-war integration of German scientific expertise. Private companies now launch satellites and spacecraft, making space accessible to nations and organizations that could never afford their own rocket programs. Commercial space stations host researchers from developing countries alongside astronauts from major powers. The dream of space exploration serving all humanity, rather than just superpowers, has finally begun reaching fruition. International cooperation in addressing climate change demonstrates how scientific knowledge can transcend political boundaries when directed toward challenges that affect all humanity. Weather satellites originally developed using rocket technology now provide crucial data for understanding global environmental changes. The same principles of international scientific cooperation that enabled space exploration now guide efforts to protect Earth's environment for future generations. The global response to pandemics showcases the continued relevance of lessons learned from the post-war scientific diaspora. Researchers worldwide share data, collaborate on vaccine development, and coordinate responses across political boundaries. The rapid development of COVID-19 vaccines demonstrated how international scientific cooperation can address urgent challenges when researchers focus on shared human needs rather than national competition. Contemporary debates about immigration often echo the discussions that surrounded Operation Paperclip and its Soviet equivalent. Nations compete to attract international students, offer pathways to citizenship for scientists and engineers, and create programs designed to retain intellectual talent. The understanding that human knowledge represents the ultimate strategic resource has become so widely accepted that it shapes immigration policies worldwide. As we witness new competitions emerging over artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and biotechnology, the fundamental questions remain unchanged from those first confronted in 1945. How do we balance national security with international cooperation? How do we ensure that beneficial knowledge serves all humanity rather than just those nations wealthy enough to develop it? How do we prevent scientific advancement from being diverted toward harmful purposes? The scientists scattered in 1945 didn't just advance rocket technology or space exploration. They forced humanity to confront the complex relationship between knowledge and morality, a reckoning that continues with each generation. The journey from weapons designers to space pioneers demonstrates both the potential for redemption through beneficial work and the permanent responsibility that accompanies scientific knowledge. Today, as artificial intelligence systems begin approaching human-level capability and genetic engineering enables unprecedented manipulation of life itself, the moral frameworks developed through experience with the German scientific diaspora provide crucial guidance. The questions of responsibility, accountability, and beneficial application that first emerged in the aftermath of World War II now apply to technologies that could reshape human civilization itself. The echoes through time remind us that scientific knowledge, once created, becomes part of humanity's permanent inheritance. The equations that describe rocket propulsion work equally well, whether used for exploration or destruction. The principles of genetics apply regardless of whether they serve healing or harm. The challenge for each generation remains the same, ensuring that our growing knowledge serves humanity's highest aspirations rather than its darkest impulses. The remarkable journey that began with scattered scientists in 1945 continues today in laboratories worldwide, where researchers grapple with the same fundamental questions about knowledge, responsibility, and the future of human civilization. Their legacy reminds us that redemption is possible, that cooperation can transcend competition, and that human knowledge, properly directed, can serve the light rather than the darkness. The story that began in the ruins of Nazi Germany continues unfolding among the stars, where human beings now work together as a single species rather than competing nations, pursuing knowledge that serves all life rather than threatening it. The transformation from weapons to wonders continues, carrying within it the eternal promise that humanity can learn from its mistakes and achieve its greatest dreams.